that they were demanding a recount because of what they suspect could be electoral fraud. Ati, what's the situation there right now?
Well, you might have seen, Oli, the tension from the political parties here in the Western Cape, saying that they are questioning the processes that have unfolded in relation to these elections, raising several discrepancies around VDs and the numbers that they are seeing, even though the Western Cape, of course, has concluded counting. They're just in the process of capturing. They are still very much concerned about the way in which the processes have unfolded. Talking about processes then, let's speak to the provincial head of the IEC here in the Western Cape, Mr. Michael Hendricks. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, the political parties had a mouthful. They had a lot to say about the issues. They were showing us pictures, evidence, counts. But of course, there are processes that have to be followed. But in terms of your engagement then with them, talk to us about that.
So look, obviously we have our regular meetings with the provincial party liaison committees on which the political parties were, and we had a meeting and they did express their dismay and disappointment and yes, frustrations, and you know, they have entitled to express those frustrations and dismays, and I in turn explained to them what is the legal route for them to follow in order to raise objections against the results, because our legislation is very clear. There's a process to be followed, they understand it, and that is what I explained to them.
So some of them were raising issues like, number one, the emails were bouncing back, and that they're not getting responses or receipt of the actual emails, acknowledgement that the IEC has actually received those objections, especially considering that the deadline was 9 o'clock. We're looking at 21:32, that's just after 9:30. But even before the deadline, they were talking about these issues, not getting acknowledgement that their emails have actually reached the IEC, and some saying the emails were bouncing back.
Look, there's a specific email address for these objections, which are material to the result. As for other emails that they may be sending in the course of the day, I can't talk about that, but there is a specific email address that's up and running and which I advise them to do. What emails they sent and when they sent them, I cannot comment obviously on it, but I did advise them what is the process, what are the deadlines, and they've known that since they've been attending our PPLC.
Every election is important, and this one too. It's been dubbed a watershed moment, a historic moment for South Africa. So when you look at these developments, particularly now we're talking about the province that you are leading, are you concerned about these complaints and the number thereof? Because initially we were reporting the EFF, and then the Freedom Front Plus came up, the Land Party came up, Triple C came up, and then they decided as a collective, with the exception of the DA, to start raising these concerns. Yeah. So are you then not, as the head of the IEC, concerned about these issues? We've spoken about the processes, but these elections are very important for many South Africans, and certainly for those who stood in long queues, braving the weather and braving the long hours. What are your concerns in relation to these particular developments?
I think you must separate the issues of long queues, etc., and braving and ordinary citizens. What we have here are contestants. They have issues and they have objections, and the route is very clear for them to follow. Whether there's merit in their allegations, that is something to be determined. Remember, you make out a claim, and that claim has to be investigated, and they will be investigated by the Commission. When you make out a case, you need to provide your supporting document. So at this stage, as I indicated, these particular objections in terms that are material to the result will have to be submitted directly to the Commission. There's a particular route to be followed in terms of the legislation, and they will be investigated and to see to what extent there is merit in them. It's one thing to make claims, it's another thing to actually show that there is merit. So clearly we take it serious, and they will be investigated, and we will be responding to the contestants in the manner that is provided by the law.
I guess what I was really just trying to get from you in really simple terms, are you concerned considering how important these elections are? We know that processes are unfolding, but I was just asking, are there any concerns? I mean, look at what is happening here.
No, look, obviously they share their dismay and their frustrations, and obviously I take into account those particular things. But as I said, the way in which we react to whether there are merit in some of the claims or not, and we have to deal with that in response to that. And I think we take our role very seriously as the IEC, and therefore we have certain statutory processes in place, and they know the role to play. So obviously we take serious any allegations which are made, and therefore we investigate those particular allegations.
All right, Mr. Michael Hendricks, thank you so much for your time. It would be remiss, really, of me not to show you the numbers as they stand. I'm going to ask my colleague to walk with me to show you the leaderboard. So, yeah, that's the IEC saying that they are taking these issues very seriously and that they will be investigated, especially considering, Oli, that it's not just one political party here in the Western Cape that has raised concerns. It's several political parties, if not all, actually. They all came up to us as the media saying that we all have issues about the processes that were followed by the IEC. So looking at the leaderboard, we are at just over 90% of the VDs completed in the regional ballot. They keep changing. Now we're moving on to the provincial ballot, which is at just over 92% of the VDs completed. The IEC has noted that the counting has concluded, and they're just capturing data at the moment. There, the Democratic Alliance leading at over 900,000, followed by the African National Congress at over 300,000. And then you have the Patriotic Alliance, which has really been garnering support in the rural parts and other parts of the Western Cape,